Hey everybody, it's Lebo with Lebo's Pinball here on Star Trek. I think this is maybe part 6. I'm starting to lose count of it. Anyways, we are back at it. Last time we got the drop targets taken care of, put in new stand-up target faces. So that's taken care of, and we're going to work on today. I mentioned the last meeting. We're going to start meeting the last video, getting the plastics back on, which means we're putting in these new posts, new rubbers, and we'll be putting in the lights. We'll be putting LEDs in, and I had mentioned before about putting warm whites in. I actually shifted over to a sunlight bulb on these because I like the color of it. It's just a little lighter, and I think it's going to work. So I will tell even more once I start putting bulbs in the other sockets, if that's all going to work entirely. But speaking of light sockets, I'm going to go ahead and look at these two. I mentioned in an earlier video that I didn't like how this was. You got one that's really far down in there, and then this one's up here high, and it's just, I don't know what's going on with that. So we're going to take a look at that first. I've got actually new lane guides. They're going to go in this area as well. So, all right, let's get at it. Okay, so here's the sockets that are coming out. We got this one that's up here, which to me looks kind of like that might have been replaced at one point. I'm not 100% sure. And then we got this guy here. It's not focusing real great. There we go, it's better. That one's more of a surface mount, held in with a staple here. So we're going to take both of those out, and I think what I'm going to drop in, I've got a variety of some sockets here, but I'm looking at this one. This one's probably going to be what I go with. And I probably should, it's going to be hard to do with one hand. Let's see if I can get this in here. Just as a bulb to try to show the point here. Okay, so just looking at the side of the Playfield and look at the wood, that's about like how it'll penetrate through. So it'll actually be coming through and illuminate the whole lane guide. So if I go much higher, I don't know. I'm splitting atoms here, I'm sure, but I'm thinking that this is probably the right socket that I want to go with. So let's get these out. I'm going to put a couple new ones in. We'll solder them in just the same way that these are done, and we'll be good to proceed. Sockets are in, and I went ahead and actually threw a couple bulbs in there, so they're just kind of poking up just right over the Playfield surface. So I think they're going to work out fine with lighting up the lane guides. And I went ahead and put, again, right now I'm starting out here with the sunlight bulbs. Now for these red lane guides that go here, sometimes I've put red bulbs to kind of match that, but I'm going to start out with just going with just sunlight here, because I'm afraid that might put like more of like a red hot spot, and it would get over here on the artwork here. So I'm just going to keep it kind of simple and just go with a white color here. So all right, let's keep moving forward. we've got all the plastics installed, got all the new silicone bands put back in place. And actually right now, I don't know if you can tell very much in the video or not, but I've got a lot of the Playfield lights lit up. And the way I've done it is I've just got a battery pack here just to provide 6 volts to the lamps, and that just lights up the whole circuit. Now, it's probably really hard for you to tell in the video, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this light out. This probably isn't going to help much either. So I'm still kind of struggling a little bit on lights to use. I've gone back and I've actually changed out some things. On the left are the Comet sunlight bulbs. And I went with those originally, or actually originally I was going with warm whites. And I put those in because I thought that it would give it some nice clarity to the white without going too washed out to, you know, I don't like the cool whites. A lot of games I don't really like cool whites on. Some games I actually do. Just depends on the artwork and the colors. But most of the time I tend to like either a warm or a sunlight. But I went back, and on the right hand side here, you can see these are actual the warm white bulbs. The pop bumpers have still got the sunlights in it. So you got sunlights over here on the left, sunlights inside the pop bumpers, and notice it still looks kind of yellowed there, which I think is okay. And then you got the warm whites here on the right. And I'm doing this just to try to kind of get an opinion, form my own opinion on what I think looks right. And I tell you what, I think I'm going back full circle, and I want to stick with the warm whites. I think it just looks right, kind of period correct for this game. Still has a little bit of the, and this isn't an EM game, but this is early solid state, and it kind of has that sort of that early glow to it. So that's the way that I'm leaning right now. So I'm probably gonna pop some of these plastics back off. That won't take very long. Swap out the bulbs and put this side back into the warm whites. Actually, there was a warm white right here underneath this lane guide, and that's the sunlight there. It's hard to tell in the video. You can tell a lot more in person. But let's go ahead and I'm going to swap those bulbs out, and then the other thing I'm going to do is I've got the flippers here to rebuild. So we're going to put in a whole new flipper mix, new bats, of course put new bands on it too. So that's next. All right, first let's take this switch off. I'm going to just set it to the side really just for a minute. I could reuse it, but I got a new one, and rather put a fresh one on. All right, now let's take off the coil stop. All right, slipping the coil stop out, and taking also the sleeve out, and it is coming out, which is a good sign. Sometimes these get seized up inside of the coil because the coil is, usually because it's had a problem, there's been something to cause it to overheat, whether, you know, if it was locked on or whatever, and if that happens, then this coil will get seized inside. But in this case, that one is good. So we'll take, here's the new coil stop and the new sleeve. I'm going to set that actually aside just for a minute. All right, let's take out the plunger and the link. And again, look at this. See all that play? That's a sign that it's been worn out quite a bit. All right, we'll set this aside just for a minute. Here is the new one. Let's see how this one is. A little bit of play, but not much. So that's good. So we'll throw this back together. We'll set this here. Next, we need to take out this this bushing. Swap it out for a new one. And now the new one is installed. Okay, and there was one part that I took off much earlier, and I forgot to mention it here because it was not here. This is the actual bell crank. All right. Now it had previously it was connected here on the linkage, and there's a little C-clip that holds it on. And I have a new one. Here's the new one compared to the old one. And notice that there's also a couple set screws that came with it. Whoops. The new screws that came with this are actually very similar, except that they're not really hex. Well, they are. It's still an Allen wrench that'll go into it, but we'll go ahead and kind of get them pre-threaded in here. And all right, there we go. So All right, so now let's attach this to this linkage, throw the C-clip on it, and then we'll put all this back together. All right, so we got the new linkage, bell crank, plunger, and the spring here all put back together. And the new kits that came with a little, I guess you call it a spring washer. Some of the flippers use them, some of them don't. When I took this off, there was not one there, but it was probably supposed to be one. It's supposed to just try to kind of help take up some of the slab. What I really like to do is just slide this all really nice and tight, lock the screws down, and not even fool with one of these. Which actually that may be what I'll do. But let's go ahead and let's put the I'm gonna put this plunger just sort of in place. We're gonna now take the coil. Well, actually, let's take this coil stop with the sleeve. There we go. Got that all pushed back in place. And then now we're going to slide this to where that sleeve should slip right in to this bracket. There we go. And all right, now that that's there, we can put the screws in there. A lot of times and this one's not really too much of that way. The coil stop or this bracket here on the other side, they'll be slotted so you can loosen screws, tighten everything up, hold it tight, tighten the screws down. And the reason that's important, it's the same reason why having the sloppy egg-shaped holes that are in the linkages, the pin between the linkage and the bell crank, and the pin between the linkage and the plunger, it just robs power. It's the same thing here. It'll just completely rob power. So you want to get that all nice and tight and take advantage of everything that you've got there. So let's throw the screws in here, and then we'll look at the flipper bat itself. All right, so we got the coil stop in place. I did not use the little spring washer. I didn't need to. This coil is nice and solid in here, so I'm happy with that. Now, I misspoke before. We're going to put the plunger in. I'm going to go ahead and swap this switch over. So this one's still wired up here, but what we'll do is we'll go ahead and just mount this one in. And we need to mount it in such a way that when this arm comes over here, it's actually going to be opening up the switch, and it's going to actually hit what you call this insulated paper, or also known as fish paper. This arm is kind of a mirror image of the one that's going to be on this side, but as the plunger comes across and does this, it should actually, when this is positioned here, it'll open this up, open that switch up. So let's go ahead and throw the screws in here, mount this in place, then we'll move the wires over. All right, got our solder here, and once it cools off, we'll slip this insulation over it like it was there. All right, now it's time to get the flipper bat out, put the new band on it, and put it in place. All right, here's our new flipper bat. It's already got this post that's built into it. I'm gonna go ahead and stretch this silicone band in place. Now the polyurethane bands, I wouldn't have been able to do that fast. They're a lot harder to pull on. And there's tricks with those. You can take stuff like zip ties, pull it around it so you got something to grab hold of. There's different tricks, but that goes on pretty easy. All right, they make a thinner version of this, which actually I have not tried yet. And it's supposed to have like less bounce or whatever, but this is their standard ones, and I've actually been fine with those. So, all right, so now let's see if we can put this through the Playfield, and there it is. Now, right now, I'm just going to kind of temporarily, just kind of finger tight hold those screws in, because we're going to have to get the orientation of the flipper bats, right where they need to be, and then we'll tighten the screws down. But that's it for now. Time to flip over to the other one and have that done. But I tell you what, folks, we've been busy working on a lot of stuff. Been distracted with a lot of other things, work and lots of family stuff going on. So we're going to wrap it up for tonight, but we will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.